The only way you can make money as a trader is to master the art of losing. But that doesn't mean that losing will become easy for you. There are some trades that will be painful. But in the midst of your pain, you want to also make sure that you are maintaining discipline. So I want to walk with you some of the most painful trades that I've been able to see since I started trading. All right, so let's get into it. Okay, so these trades are not in order. Some trades I took them before some others. All right, but this is the first trade on my list, right? This trade, it was a little bit funny for me, right? Because when I took the trade started going very quickly to my to my loss area, and it was so fast that I was like, why did I even take this trade in the first place? It was really annoying. But I had to take the trade because it sits well with my trading system, my trading strategy. And when I took it, I saw the first glimpse of hope. The trade seemed to be moving well until it got to that area close to my take profit and started to misbehave. So I moved my stop loss to break even, which is part of my system. Once my trade gets to 1 to 2, I move my stop loss to break even. And then I began to see that move coming downwards. I was very upset. I wouldn't lie to you. I was upset, but then I just had to bear with it because my happiness is in the fact that I'm following my trading system. And that's okay. One thing that happens to you when you have been trading for quite a while is that you begin to find many reasons why you should close out on the trade. And looking back on the chart, this would have been my reason for closing out on the trade because the trade actually took out some level of liquidity there. You can see the line that I have drawn there. So that place would have been a sensible place to have put my take profit. But remember, as I said before, I'm trying as much as possible to gather data. So this was the first trade, and look at what it did there. It took out liquidity and started coming down. And this was very similar to other painful trades. So what I'm saying is, you can, through all of your previous trades, your previous data, you can begin to figure out what is working and what could have made you a lot more profitable. So in this case, if I put my take profit right here, I would have been profitable on this trade. But let's look at the next painful trade and let's see how similar it was with this one. All right, so this one was on a Friday, which happened, I think, on the 26th, if I'm not mistaken. And this was my 24th trade. Okay, and this was on a Friday. Now, on a Friday, I'm being a little more cautious because I don't want a trade to linger on until the new week because of gaps. And of course, I'm trading gold, and I don't want a trade that will gap away from my stop loss and I'll be in a massive drawdown when the new week opens. So I was particularly careful. But here's the thing, I ended this trade. I would consider it a break-even trade, even though I closed it on a risk-reward ratio of 1 to 1. So this trade was a profitable trade, but I would consider it a break-even trade. All right, because I closed out a little early. But of course, it was on Friday and it still, goes well with my plan. And it was a painful trade too. And the reason for which it was a painful trade was when it got to 1 to 2, I broke even this trade and I was anticipating that it should not move too far from where it currently, from the 1 to 2 before the end of Friday. Unfortunately, it came down to 1 to 1. I had to close at 1 to 1 and see the nonsense stuff that he did close to the end of the day. It was quite painful though, but I would have closed this trade at least on a 2 hour or even slightly above 2 hour. But I had to close at 1 hour because the market retraced before the market closed. And 5 minutes, this happened 5 minutes before the market closed. We saw a very strong impulsive move to the upside and it was painful, but that's by the way. If you look at this trade, right, it looks very similar to the previous, right? You would see that it got to an area of interest, which is a resistance zone in this case. And if I had taken my profit at that point, that trade would have been a profitable trade. But of course, I'm following my system. And following my system is more important than whatever knowledge that I have prior. What I'm doing is gathering data of what works and what doesn't work. And I can't exactly tell what works from what does not work until I take a sample size of trades, and then I can know what works and what does not work, rather than assuming what works and assuming what does not work. I hope you get it. Right? I think this would be the highest in the order of painfulness. This will be the most painful trade. All right, so this trade is quite explanatory. It was less than 10 pips. This is gold, right? If you're trading Euro USD or some other pairs, this would be like one pip. Stop, one pip towards my target, and this ended in break even. This has to be the most painful of everything, of all the most painful trades. It was quite painful because, of how quickly it did not get too much in a drawdown, and it moved very quickly to my target, and I was following my plan. Sometimes following your plan may look like complete madness, but you are building discipline. Once you start moving away from your trading system, you begin to make little compromises that now affect your long-term trading. And that is what I'm guarding as much as possible. Not the money. We are not after the money now. We are after following the discipline part. And that is what brings the results. All right, so let's see the next trade. Okay, so we see that this is the same trade, right? If you look back in time, the same pattern. This trade took out liquidity, you know, and then started coming down. If I had put my take profit around that side, this trade also would have been a profitable trade, right? So I found a pattern on three of the most painful trades. So these three painful trades actually got to a target based on liquidity trading. Okay, so if I want to make my adjustment, this is one of the things that I will have to consider. But I can't exactly put this into my trading system yet until I've collected enough data to confirm that this, of a truth, is where I should be putting my take profit. I don't know if you get it. So this is how you are able to gather data over time. Okay, so for this trade, I think this trade is self-explanatory. This trade is crazy, man. It was very funny. It got to my close to my stop loss, started consolidating around my stop loss area, giving me hope, that the trade may go in my favor. And zoom, he took me out and went straight to take profit. Now, this day was a news day, so FOMC, if I'm not mistaken. And if you're a trader, this trade is self-explanatory. I don't think there's anything as painful as taking you out and then moving in less than 1 hour to your target. I don't think there's anything painful as that. So there are many variations of painfulness when it has to do with trading. This is one of the variation. And well, as a trader who is disciplined, you will have to, go through some of these seasons without having to actually revenge trade. All right, so another trades that actually got to me were these trades. Both of them ended in break even. There's not so much I have to say concerning this. I followed my plan, even though the previous trades were a lot more painful than this one. At least this one's got to 1 to 2. Yeah, and that's the reason for which they ended in break even. So a break even, of course, is better than a loss. So I let that slide. Yeah, but having two consecutive break evens in a week, I think that's top notch pain. But I let that slide. Yeah. Well, I will not exactly call this one a painful trade. It was a scary trade. It was so close to my stop loss. So close to my stop loss. And the reason why it was scary was because the last two trades before this trade was a loss. And so having this trade almost coming to my take profit, if you look at it, came down to my take profit, but it did not get to 2R. And so that was the reason for which it was not on break even, because this trade would have ended on break even and got into my target. And that would have been very painful. But this trade did not get to 2 hour. It was around 1.9 hour. Yeah, 1 to 1.9 hour. So if this trade had moved a little lower, this trade would have been a break even before it became profitable. But thank God, it got to 1 to 9 hour, went back almost close to stop loss, and then came back down. And it was a scary trade, but it was a profitable one. So not a painful trade, but a scary one. Like I said, sometimes knowledge can be very terrible. I began to draw my line. There was a time, sometime when I was learning SMC, they talked about imbalance, right? Fair value gaps, and then gaps on two sides. I've forgotten what they call that again. Can't remember. But when you have a gap on the other side, you have a gap on this side, market is likely going to go there. And I was like, my stop loss is exactly at the gap. Let me just forget about this trade. That was what I was thinking. And then the trade went in my favor. In fact, I even had to chat GPT up. If you have not seen my video on chat GPT, you should watch that too. I had to chat up chat GPT. I was like, well, I think this trade is about to be a loss. And it ended a profitable one. It was a very interesting one, actually. But thank God that went out fine. So I record all of my trades on TikTok, and I do videos here so that you follow my journey, you walk my journey with me. I'm going to be as realistic as I possibly can. Talk about the pains, talk about the discipline, talk about the consistency. My goal is to make sure that people understand the business of trading, not just the excitement, the euphoria, the technical analysis. My strategy is better than yours kind of stuff. No, I'm going to teach you, I'm going to share with you my own personal journey, and I hope that it influences and imparts you, to following a trading system and helping you understand the importance of discipline to trading success. And this is going to be as practical as it possibly can. I'll see you in the next video, and I wish you the very best. I wish you the very best in your trading journey. If you have not subscribed yet, please do well to subscribe, and do take care of yourself.